Recording. So thank you very much. He advisor of Nigeria National Polio Plus Committee, playing a leading role in Rotary International's efforts to eradicate polio in Nigeria and Africa, and eventual certification by the World Health Organization in 2021. He served on a Peace Major Gift Initiative Committee, helping to launch the Africa Peace Concert, which has raised over $300,000 for the peace centers. Yinka Babalola led and inspired the effort that grew the Arch Clamp Society membership from 4 in 2013 to current figure of about 30 in Africa. As district governor, he raised over $1 million for the Rotary Foundation. He helped prepare future Rotary leaders as International Assembly training leader, regional leader training institute facilitator, moderator for the 2024 Global Philanthropy Global Support Seminars. Yinka is passionate about growing Rotary. As a club president in 2002-2003, he won the Rotary International Global Quest Award for highest percentage net membership gain worldwide, and was recognized on stage at the Brisbane Convention. As district governor, he grew membership by a net gain of over 650, emerging one of the top 3 performing districts in the world, and was recognized on the stage at Bangkok Convention. And as a director, he inspired the growth of Rotary in Africa from 23,000 to over 44,000. Under his watch, districts of his pair zone 21 became the fastest growing districts in Europe. Yinka currently serves on the board of trustees of Shelterbox, a UK charity and Rotary's partner of emergency shelter for those displaced by diseases and conflicts. He is a Rotary Positive Peace Activator and an alumni of the Positive Peace Academy, a program of Rotary in partnership with the Institute of Economics and Peace. Yinka has received the Service Above Self Award, the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service, and the Service Award for a Polio-Free World. Yinka supports the Rotary Foundation through a named endowed fund and is a member of the Arch Clamp Society. He has attended several zone and international institutes and over 25 Rotary International conventions. In brief, this is Yinka Babalola, our guest speaker this evening in Serbia, and thank you all joining us from different parts of the world, not just from Zone 21 or Zone 22. So thank you for coming from different continents and very different timings at the moment. It is important to have continuous discussion of such important topic. So Yinka sent me somewhere his presentation.
Well, the presentation is not with you yet, so let me try and continue.
Okay.
Because we've wasted a lot of time already, and then when the presentation gets to you, you can share it with our fellow Rotarians. Good evening, my dear friends, and I hope life is easy and cool with you where you are. Can you hear me very well, Nikola? Can you hear me?
Yes, everything is okay.
Okay, good.
Loud and clear.
Yes. So the topic I had chosen is polio, the last mile. I chose that because many of us will remember that in a relay race, in fact, in a long distance race, for example, that the last mile is usually the most difficult. The last mile is usually the most difficult. And so I have chosen for presentation, for discussion today, polio, the last mile. This is something we've been part of since 1985. And you know, we initially thought we'll finish this off about the year 2000, but we are still on it 35 years after. And there are people beginning to think, are you sure we are going to make it? Are you sure this is going to happen? Are you sure we can deliver on that? And that is why I have titled it The Last Mile. Everyone that is in a long distance race knows that those last miles are very, very important. This is where you need to put in your last set of efforts, a lot of concerted energy to cross the finish line. Let me start by saying what I believe many of you know already, and that is that polio is Rotary's #1 external priority. Eradication of polio is Rotary's #1 external priority. In fact, it is such that we've decided that we shall not talk about any other corporate initiative until we finish with the job of eradicating polio, so that we don't have any distractions around it. Rotarians have come around asking questions, what next, what next, what next, what next? The board decided that, well, we shall have a framework in place for what will be next, but we are not talking about anything next until we finish polio. Now, what is polio? This is something people sometimes say, okay, why would you want to talk about that? After all, many of us here are experienced. But I normally mention it because there are many people in many parts of the world who have been born at a time that have never seen polio before. So polio for them is some strange thing, something they read in storybooks or something like that. It is not their reality. So let me quickly recap that polio is caused by the polio virus and spreads from person to person. It can attack the central nervous system and cause irreversible paralysis and even death. It most commonly affects children under the age of 5, particularly in areas with poor sanitation. There is no cure, but polio is completely preventable with a vaccine. We started this in 1985, and we made a promise to the children of the world. And that promise we made is that we shall give them a polio-free world. That polio shall be the second disease to be so eradicated after smallpox in the world. At the back of your mind, my fellow Rotarians, is this word I would like you to keep, that promise we must deliver. When we talk about integrity, it is one of the things that has made the world to trust us. That even when things get difficult, these people, these Rotarians, deliver on their promise. Just as a quick recap, you know that we are not doing this alone. Yes, it was our idea to get this done, and people thought we were crazy when this idea came. In fact, some people asked, are you guys epidemiologists? We said no. Are you medical people? We said no. What are you? We said we are just a bunch of business and professional people who just like to do good in the world. And they said, you guys are joking. Anyway, if you think you are serious, just go and bring $120 million to start the work. I will give them $240 million to show them we are serious. And the other partners working with us, of course, are the national governments, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as you know, the Center for Disease Control, the Gavi, Vaccine Alliance, UNICEF, and of course, the World Health Organization. And I think these are information that are known to many of us. Talking about the progress, what is our progress with respect to this promise we made? You see, more than 3 billion children have been immunized since we started all of this. And more than 20 million people who will otherwise be paralyzed are able to walk. And I think it is this kind of impact that Rotarians need to also think of, that needs to be part of our storytelling. That if we have not done what we've done, we are not there yet. There will have been some 20 million people who will have been paralyzed and not able to walk. Many of our countries don't even have a population of 20 million. So you can imagine the impact of what Rotary embarked upon. And in 1988, when we started, there were 350,000 cases in 125 countries. In fact, it's an average of 1,000 cases per day. In 2023, there were only 12 cases in 2 countries. Part of our progress, and unfortunate that you're not seeing this slide, is that polio had 3 types. There was the type 3, the type 2, and the type 1. You know, the type 3 has been certified eradicated in 2019. The type 2 certified eradicated in 2015. What we're dealing now is the type 1, currently circulating in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So we've made a lot of progress. So, I mean, we have a proof of success, so to speak. In fact, I had on my slide, which Nikola will send to you, part of the exciting part of the work that we've done. You know, and I'll talk about that towards the end. Africa was the last WHO region that was certified polio-free in 2020. And you know, I was going to share with you a copy of that documentation, the certificate issued by WHO, you know, to show that Africa is polio-free. That is a big milestone. I wasn't that involved when India was certified polio-free earlier. But you see, the question here is, Africa getting certified polio-free wasn't done by Africans alone or Rotarians in the African continent. All of us, every Rotarian who, please listen, every Rotarian who made a contribution to the polio fund, who went out doing some advocacy, who went out talking to people, even going for immunization exercises, they were all part of that. I will talk more about that a little bit later. So even for Afghanistan and Pakistan, you know, the white virus is also confined to a small part of the countries by the borders. So it is also limited. It is very, very narrowed. As at today, the number of reported cases in Afghanistan is 18, and in Pakistan is 17. Now, this is higher than we had this time last year. And I want to let Rotarians who feel disillusioned to say, does this mean we are losing the fight? Not necessarily so. In fact, the fact that we are finding them shows that our surveillance is working. And then when we finally say it is done, it means it is done. And again, for those who will normally ask, but we are 99.9% done. We are having only a few cases now. What do we still need all this money for? Surveillance is one of them. And of course, in terms of the eradication strategy, you know, one goal of the strategy is to permanently interrupt transmission of all poliovirus in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And the second goal is to stop transmission of the variant poliovirus type 2 and prevent outbreaks in polio-free regions. Like some of you know, we've had outbreaks in Gaza of recent. We found in the environmental samples, I'm not exactly sure, in London, in New York, and several places where polio had been eradicated before. In fact, if I recall the last set of information I saw, I think even in India, that has not seen polio for more than 10 years, you know, there was some kind of outbreak. So that is the eradication strategy. And that then means that every child must be immunized. So when people say, all this money, what are we then going to do with it? We are almost done. The truth of the matter is, even as we're speaking now, children are being born. Children are being born, and they need to be immunized. They need to be reached. No matter what corner of the world they are born. Because until every child is reached, no child anywhere is safe. And I mean, no child anywhere is safe. People have sometimes asked me, Yinka, why are you so passionate and concerned about polio? This affects children below the age of 5 mostly. You have no children below the age of 5, so why are you worried? And I told them, yes, I'm worried because I don't have children below the age of 5, but I don't want polio to be one of the things my children will deal with. I don't want my grandchildren to have polio. I don't want polio to be one of the things that will be a worry to my own children when they decide to start producing. Let them worry about something else, but let us get done with this polio eradication thing. So, what is our role as Rotary in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, GPEI, as we call it? For us as Rotary members, we can be very proud of what we've accomplished already. Like I said earlier, the number of cases has fallen. 1.5 billion lives have been saved. 20 million volunteers have been mobilized. So many things we have done. We've even built healthcare infrastructure with experienced providers that's useful far beyond polio eradication. We call it the polio legacy, something we are going to leave behind for the rest of the world to deal with. I mean, to be able to use. But basically, Rotary's roles are threefold: fundraising, advocacy, and raising awareness. That is Rotary International. And I had a fourth one when we are talking to Rotarians in-house, because those are the 4 roles assigned to us by the GPEI that we are responsible for. But when I talk to Rotarians, I also talk about field activities, getting involved. So let's talk a little bit more about those roles, like fundraising. Of course, you all know we have an annual fundraising goal of $50 million. And that if we reach that, Mr. Bill Gates will match that 1 to 2. And that is simply, and the way it has been broken down is that Rotarians should contribute. Each club should give a minimum of $1,500 per club per year, and the district should give a minimum of 20% of DDF from their districts to support this effort. One new part of fundraising strategy is what we call the Polio Plus Society. I'm sure with people like Nikola and all the end polio zone coordinators, I can see Maria Irene online also. I'm sure everybody will be able to be talking to you about the Polio Plus Society as a way of fundraising. But when we raise this money, what exactly does it fund? It's unfortunate you don't have the slide now, but I'm sure you are going to get it. You see, our fundraising funds a few things. First, outbreak response. When we have these outbreaks, it funds the outbreak response. And I think for the 2023-24, that comes down to about $66.8 million, which is about 46% of the total money we are providing. You know, of course, for Afghanistan, we have a provision for $25.2 million. For Pakistan, about $38 million, which is about 26% of the total amount of money. And then the remaining 10% goes to the general other things that we do, including technical assistance. And like you know, when we had issues in Gaza, we had to immunize. And your organization, our organization, provided $500,000 to help with the outbreak response in Gaza. And this is possible because Rotarians are donating, they're talking to our friends to donate, and we are fundraising. An outbreak response like the ones we had in Gaza is part of what the money is used for. Of course, a second one of Rotary's role is advocacy. We advocate for funding and for political support. So we are talking to rich countries around the world. And you know, your fellow Rotarians are doing a lot of work in this area. Because you know, to get these monies out of governments, out of the rich governments, out of donor agencies, sometimes you require a personal touch. You require somebody who knows somebody, talking to somebody. And we have Rotarians doing this, whether talking to the US government, talking to the UK government, the Canadian government, the Japanese government. Rotarians are busy doing all of this just to make sure that there is no funding gap to get this work finished. We also advocate to sustain the political will towards eradication. You see, I come from a part of the world where there is serious competition for resources. The governments don't have enough to do a lot of the things they need to do. So you need a lot of advocacy to get them to agree to continue to support polio eradication. When they could as well tell you, look, we have other things we need to do. We have malnutrition to deal with. We have sanitation issues to deal with. But you see, it's a lot of advocacy to let them know that, look, for polio, we know what to do. We have the tools to do it. We know exactly how to get rid of it. Just let us do this and get it done with. And we can put all our resources on any other thing else we need to do. And in areas of the world where you have resistance to vaccination also, a lot of advocacy is also being done by Rotarians. Sometimes, you know, in my country, for example, where people were all sorts of rumors, like you have in some parts of the world also, about the vaccine and all sorts of things they thought it could do. You know, we had to get the president of the country to vaccinate his own grandchild on public television, just to let people know that this vaccine is safe. Like you may know in your countries, to get the president of your country to do that on public television is not something that just happens. It's a lot of advocacy that goes into that. And for us as Rotarians, any of us who has any of those reach, any of those contacts with people that can make things happen, even if you have not been asked, you can volunteer yourself. Say, wait a minute, I have contacts here in case you need it. Because every contact matters. It helps in the whole work that we're doing. Of course, the last of Rotary's role is raising awareness. Of course, part of raising awareness is the upcoming World Polio Day on 24th of October. That is to raise awareness, not just to Rotarians, but to the whole world. The World Immunization Week, for example, that is part of raising awareness. And I know Rotarians are very good at this. This is where we need to keep Rotarians engaged. This is a strength that we have. 1.4 million Rotarians and Rotaractors who can deploy them across our footprint. That would be massive. That would be massive. And it's important as we plan for World Polio Day that we try and get as many Rotarians as possible to be engaged, so that we can have these conversations in as many languages as possible in every part of the world, playing locally, even though we are dealing with an international issue. So that is part of raising awareness. I had images I was going to share with you of some of the exciting and sometimes crazy stuff Rotarians have done to raise awareness. I'm sure you are aware of some of them. You know, Rotarians going on the bike from London to Lagos through all those terrorist areas, Rotarians riding cars from Turkey across the world, you know, Rotarians going on bike, Rotarians even skydiving. You know, I've seen the Sphinx, you know, the pyramid lit, you know, just to create awareness. What else can Rotarians do? I've seen Rotarians brand themselves, you know, not just their vehicles, brand themselves to create awareness for polio. Rotarians who have made themselves moving billboards just to create awareness. And I think the ideas are unlimited, whatever comes to your mind, in whichever way it comes, let's just do it. Let us just do it to create awareness. So the question then is, I talked about the last mile. I've been talking about all the things we've done as we're going there. But what then do we still need to do to finish off? They're exactly the things I've been talking about. We still need to immunize hundreds of millions of children every year. Because like I said, even as we're talking, children are being born. So we need to keep immunizing them. We need to find a way of funding the deployment of hundreds of thousands of vaccinators, particularly in the endemic areas. We'll make sure that the vaccine gets to every child. And of course, we need to intensify our surveillance activities to make sure that we do not miss any case. And it's the reason why, as Rotarians, we need to keep at it. So what is at stake? The truth of the matter is this: polio anywhere is a threat to children everywhere. Until the last child is reached, no child anywhere is safe. Not the child of the rich, not the child of the poor. It is even more dangerous now, where in many parts of our world, immunization is not as thorough as we thought it was going to be. And these are openings. And once we have under-immunized children, and then a child that is infected comes in there, then there's trouble for everybody. So until the last child is reached, no child is safe. So as you, me, individual Rotarians, what can we do? Or what can you do to reach our goal? Of course, we need to stay engaged. And what does staying engaged mean? It means, one, we need to ensure that our goal of $50 million every year is raised. Because if we don't reach those goals, we cannot get the matching that we need, and there will be no funding to do all the things we've said are required to get to zero. There are many countries where polio is strange. We need to be creative about getting the story to them. And we know people talk about donor fatigue. That is a challenge to us as Rotarians, to keep everybody involved and interested in getting it done. From the fundraising point of view, participate and join the Polio Plus, a Polio Plus society. That will help. That is what individuals can do. We can advocate for the polio eradication effort wherever you go. In fact, in my part of the world, I do tell people when I go out for immunization, and I meet people, I say, look, and I give them the polio pin. I say, look, all I'm asking you to do is simple. If you see a child below the age of 5, ask the mother, ask the guardian, ask the caregiver, is this child immunized? It's as simple as that. Is this child immunized? And please, in your parts of the world where routine immunization is almost like a system in place, let us also check in to make sure that this system is working. Because we have found, as in many cases, that those systems may not be working as they've told us they will work. And of course, let us leverage the World Polio Day to create awareness as far as possible. And let us record, should I say record or report our activities on endpolio.org so we can see exactly and measure our reach and our impact as it is. So we need to keep doing things like this, and then we will get to the end of this mile. We'll get to the finished line. We'll breast the tape. Let me say this on a personal note, my dear friends. For me, the case is not whether polio will be finished or not. I am certain, I am convinced without doubt that we shall eradicate polio. It's not will it happen. It will happen. And it will happen in our lifetime. I tell people that the last chapter, in fact, the last pages of the last chapter of polio education are being written now. And it's the last opportunity for individual Rotarians to get into the history book, to be part of history. Because very soon, polio will just remain something, maybe in some laboratory for the purpose of studies or something, or mostly in history books for children to read about it. But it's like we talk about the iron lung. To many of us, even though there's still polio, to many of us, that is history. That is what polio will be. But assuming 20 years from now, 10 years from now, you are done with polio, and your grandchild comes to you, Mama, Grandpa, Grandma, I understand Rotary helped eradicate polio. You're a Rotarian. Were you involved? What will be your response? Will your response be, actually, would that be your response? Or will your response be, yes, my dear, I was involved. I was part of that. That was something fantastic we did. And these children of nowadays can be very curious. Okay, Grandpa, so what exactly did you do? Will you have something to say? My dear friends, I apologize for the delay in getting this started. In fact, it is raining. I don't want to call it cats and dogs. It's probably something bigger than cats and dogs, maybe elephants and lions or something, and it's affecting a lot of things here. So my apologies for the delay in starting. I hope I did not keep you waiting for too long. And I hope I have not bored you also with my stories. Regrettably, I couldn't show you the slides, but they will get to Nikola, and Nikola will be able to share it to everybody. So I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yinka, for these inspiring presentations. Maybe it was even better without having a presentations for us, because your body language show us how inspired you are, and you are inspiring us. And thank you for your time. We used time waiting for you to discuss unfortunate floods in the Central Europe and possibility to help, and also discuss what's happening in Gaza with vaccination. And so we spend the time to use this panel for our exchange of information and discussion. And of course, I will give a floor, because last time on our first Polio Talks, it showed that it was very useful to have a discussion after the presentation. And we are at the end of the formal time for our meeting, but I would understand if somebody cannot be with us until 8 o'clock Belgrade time. But if you can stay for, let's say, 15 more minutes to have opportunity to discuss something with past Rotary International Vice President Yinka, and person that at least witnessed making Africa polio-free, but I'm sure that he influenced that process a lot. So I will just start with the first question, just to put discussion to warm the discussion. So my first question is, what are the challenges after announcing that Africa is polio-free continent? So what's the biggest challenges now?
We have several cases of the variant polio, the vaccine derived, as we call it, because of low levels of routine immunization. So that is it. That is a problem. Of course, we also have the issues of conflict, insurgency, making it difficult to get to the children. Mm-hmm. We are finding ways around it, but these are things that make the process a little bit more difficult as it is. And of course, like I also mentioned, even for governments that are willing, the political and economic challenges many of the governments are having is making it tougher and tougher for them to commit the level of resources that will be required to that work. And like you know, even though the white polio virus is eradicated, you need to keep immunizing children.
Thank you.
You need to keep immunizing children.
Thank you, Yinka. So we have 4 raised hands. I think that we will fill the time with these questions. So let's start with Jamil, then Margaret, then Marie, then who was the Terry was there, and Ahmad at the end. So that are the questions for this night.
Yes, I will start.
Yes.
Okay,
Good
thank
to hear
you. Thank you, Yinka, for your interesting talk. We are very proud of what Rotary International has accomplished. It is a huge accomplishment without any doubt. And I am convinced, like you, that we have to continue till the eradication of this crippled disease. I heard you talking, you know that I am from Lebanon. And I heard you talking about Gaza. What, in your opinion, are the specific steps that Rotary is taking to address the resurgence of polio in Gaza? And how quickly it will mobilize the resources to face this conflict? I have another question, 2 questions. The second is there any innovative strategies or technologies that Rotary is implementing to reach the most vulnerable people in the world where there is polio? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamil. In fact, if you've been following the news, you will recall there was a ceasefire that was agreed to by the Israeli government and all the other people involved in the conflict, just for the purpose of getting into Gaza to immunize the children. I can't immediately have on my head how many millions of children were targeted for immunization, but that happened. And I announced earlier that Rotary supported that effort with $500,000 US. You know, we have our partners like UNICEF, WHO, who are the experts in this. Our role in the GPEI is advocacy, fundraising, and awareness creation. And when we had this outbreak and we needed to respond to the outbreak, Rotary was able to support that effort with $500,000 US. So you are correct. So the exercise has taken place, actually. The first round of the outbreak response are taking place already. You know? And I can tell you this, I don't have anything immediately in my hand, that process of getting the ceasefire to get the vaccinators into the place to immunize the children, I'm sure somehow, a fellow Rotarian of yours may have been involved in that. Because everywhere where you have had conflict and had to have a ceasefire, our people have been involved one way or the other. Because where there is conflict, both sides tend to trust us as an organization. So your organization was involved. We supported that effort with $500,000 US, and the first round of outbreak response has actually taken place. So that issue should be nipped in the bud very quickly. Because when you have an outbreak and you have the vaccination done immediately, then you contain it. And I'm certain that is something that will be managed. Talking about innovative technologies, a lot of things have been done, including satellite mapping. You know, in the beginning, we were missing children because we were not even sure children existed in some places. You know, a lot of technology were deployed, including artificial intelligence, to be able to map where exactly have satellite images to say there is a house here and there is a child. Because when you have children, there are ways, there are things you see that tells you have children here, you know, and those things have been deployed in terms of reaching the people. I can tell you that, you know, we are more certain now when we've missed children that we have missed children than before. And that is because of the innovative technologies that were deployed.
Thank you. I'm reading a question before giving the floor to Marie-Irene. Reading a question from the chat of our friend Bashar. He is a survivor. His question is the second half of this year, the polio cases increased rapidly in Afghanistan and Pakistan. What went wrong? How we can stabilize the infection up to 10 cases a year next year, 8 cases the year after that, and so on?
Yes, thank you very much. And I like the way you titled your chat. You said the mile is stretching. Yes. And that is where that is why it is the last mile. That mile is not stretching per se. There is nothing happening now that were not anticipated, really. Just like, you know, when you're on a long distance race, you all know that when you are looking at the finish line, you are tired, a lot of things happen, you need to put a lot of energy. Many of the things happening now were anticipated, and that's why responses and solutions were available for them. That's why we have the outbreak responses and the rest. Unfortunately, like we said, I wish the whole world would just be peaceful. I wish there is somebody who can decree peace. Because for polio, we know what it takes. We know what is required to finish it. The problem is that some of the human behaviors are making that difficult. Like you see for Afghanistan and Pakistan, most of the places we have the virus or where the viruses are mutating from are in those areas where you have either difficult access and a lot of conflict going on. You know, we'll continue to try. We'll continue to talk to all the stakeholders. You know, we'll continue to build trust. You know, and leverage all the governments and the people, like is currently happening, so we can reach all the children. The places we have the difficulties are where you have wars, conflicts, insurgency, like I mentioned earlier. I wish we as Rotarians have direct control over that. I wish we know somebody. I'm sure if there is somebody who could blow a whistle and all the wars and all the conflicts on planet Earth disappears, I'm sure if there will be a Rotarian who will know that person. That it has not happened means such a person does not exist as at now.
Thank you. And the last question for this night, and Polio Now coordinator Marie-Irene, please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes,
yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nikola. I'd like to thank past Vice President Yinka for this very, very inspiring presentation. But I'd like to highlight the challenges in Africa, and in particular in sub-Saharan Africa. Advocacy, awareness, taking awareness in action, fundraising, naturally, and through involvement of Rotarian. As past Vice President said, when the population, when the community see the head of state giving drops to children, they said, it's very serious. It's very serious, you know, the head of state, but also the traditional authorities, the religious authorities. It's very, very important. And so we have to do advocacy toward the high authorities to say that, please, polio is not finished. The hard work is not finished. We should continue, because two years ago, there were polio in Malaysia, the year before in Mozambique, this year in Gaza. So the children must be vaccinated, even if they are vaccinated before. We don't have any medicine. We have immunization. So we should, Rotarians should they should tell everybody that the work should continue. We must keep up the hard work. We have to raise funds, not with a Rotarian, of course. Clubs, $1,500 at least. We should give at least $100 for the Polio Plus Society every year until polio is over. The district governor should give 20% at least. At least we should encourage them to give more of the DDF. But we must also talk about our so very important projects. To non-Rotarian, we have celebrities in our countries. We have private sector. We have to identify people who can give funds for polio. They don't know because they don't give because they don't know. We should go and explain them what Rotary did, what Rotary are doing, and what we've done, so that our goals will be achieved. So we have to be on the field during the National Immunization Day, so that the population see Rotarian on the field. Else they will say it's WHO, it's UNICEF, it's CDC, it's the government. They should know that the dream comes from Rotary. So we have so many to do. The challenges are, there are many. There are many.
Anyway, so I think thank you, Maria Irene. I mean, she paraphrased some of the things I've said. I've said already. Yes, we know those challenges are there, and we know the solutions to them also. So we just need to keep working. You know, talking to celebrities is about creating awareness. It's about advocacy. Talking to religious leaders and the rest, community leaders, that's all about advocacy. Those are the things we've agreed we needed to do. Thank you for I think Ahmed asked a question. Is he still there?
Yeah. So we have a time for two brief comments. One from Margaret and one from Ahmed. Please be brief.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Yinka.
Just call me Yinka, remove the Mr.
I'm very happy I didn't zoom off just because you didn't show up on time. But gave a very enlightening and impressive talk on polio. I have one or two questions for you. I'll be very brief. You've touched on two of them already, but I thought I really must ask this. I understand that Afghanistan, one of the two endemic countries that polio endemic countries, has recently banned immunization of children. That in itself is very, very worrying. As recent as perhaps a few days ago. And the second one, very briefly, is about Gaza and Ukraine. The disparity, the difference between those two countries, the way they are treated when it comes to Rotary. Okay, in short, the two countries have been bombarded to oblivion. But why is polio coming only to Gaza? Why? What is that difference? What makes that difference? Even though both countries are seen as being bombarded by, those who are fighting the war. What's happening?
Thank you. Thank you. And the last, I will give the last brief comment to Ahmad, and then Yinka, you will answer, please.
Thank you, Nikola. I'm always brief,
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Yinka. Hello.
Hi, Ahmad.
Yinka, even if polio will end or be eradicated soon, few years, but we should always have a budget to continue monitoring the new cases if they arise anywhere. Why can't we have an endowment fund for polio so that even after we finish from it, we still have earnings coming up and contributing toward polio?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start from
Yinka, sorry, I will read you one more comment from the chat so you can answer all these comments. From Past District Governor Barbara, we have a comment: to get Rotarians involved, we must approach the topic in a holistic way, not focusing only on vaccination, but as well on the topics of water and education. So this is the last comment from the participants.
Okay, thanks. Let me start from Margaret. Even in Ukraine, there was an outbreak that had to be dealt with when the war started. So that there is conflict and polio comes out is not unexpected. So it happened in Ukraine, and the WHO dealt with it, just like it's happening in Gaza, and it is being dealt with. So as far as polio is concerned, the response has been the same everywhere, whether it is in a rich country or in a poor country. The response has been the same everywhere. Beyond polio, I'm unable to make a comment on what else is happening in any of the two places. That would be political. But I can assure you, yes, as far as response is concerned, it is the same response that happened in both cases, and in fact, everywhere in the world where we have a case that has been detected, particularly in countries that have not seen it for years. It's the same thing that happened in Mozambique, Malawi, and the rest about a few years ago. They've not seen polio for long. But when it happened, there was a response, and it was the same response. And let me, shall I say, take that to what Ahmed said. For the world to be certified polio-free, there are conditions. It is not just that the cases have come down to zero. There are years after that for which it must remain at zero before it could be certified, polio-free. And within those years, immunization will continue. And in terms of the funding forecast or funding projections, those have been taken care of in the funding projections and the funding forecast for the whole world as it is. So yes, it will not catch us unaware. We know that. We know we need to have some years after zero, for which the procedure still needs to continue. And we know that our surveillance needs to be top-notch. And that is why the money is still being spent. So even where there are no known cases of polio, surveillance is still taking place for us to be able to look and make sure that there is nothing lurking around. And I can assure you, from my personal experience, considering the places in my country where children have been detected with polio, our surveillance is working. Your money is being well utilized. I can assure you that is happening. I don't know if there's any of the questions I have missed out.
Thank you, Yinka. Thank you for this evening.
Let me acknowledge what my dear friend and sister Barbara mentioned. You said we need to pay attention to the water, education, and the rest. And we are paying attention to that. That is actually the plus in the polio. Many of you will hear we all say polio plus. It is part of that plus, you know, because Rotary is going around providing some of those facilities in some of those areas also, you know, including other support, other vaccination support, you know, to make sure that we have an holistic approach to the whole thing, including providing support for routine immunization, which is not what we really want to do, you know. But when we realize that that is something that will impact the final destination for us, we are, even if it's reluctantly, paying attention to at least helping with advocacy to make sure it is happening. So yes, it is known, and that is actually the plus in the polio that you've been hearing about, or part of the plus.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this whole evening. Thank you all. I know that there was some additional questions to appear, but we will continue with our discussions in October after the World Polio Day. We will have a discussion with our trustee member from our zones. And in November, I'm planning to organize a panel discussion with End Polio Now coordinators from different continents to have to see what is the situation in different parts of the world on awareness building, on the vaccination, on fundraising, and everything else. Thank you, Yinka, once again. For everything you are doing in Rotary and for this evening especially. And thank you all, my friends, and spread the word that we can have a nice time with Polio Talks. See you after the World Polio Day in October. October 29th is the next Polio Talks meeting. Thank you very much.
Bashar and Lorenzo and Nikola, could you probably stay on? Yinka, thanks a lot.
I'm here.